So, as you see right here, alligators and snakes in the area, stay away from the water. Don't feed the wildlife. But what's the plan going forward? A friend of mine was telling me about William Shatner, who's been talking to this AI. And William Shatner plays Star Trek, for those that don't know who he is. He's been talking to this AI, recording his consciousness pretty much. And the idea is that that AI would know everything about him from his own perspective and be able to answer questions about him and kind of represent him as a clone, if you will, digital clone. He created his own digital clone based on his own memories. So I thought that was cool, and this is something that's been happening recently. But I've been doing that online and also putting data on the servers of these major companies for 10 years. And for the future time, when AI will be smart enough to pull that data and then create a digital copy of myself. Why would I want to create a digital copy of myself? So that when I'm gone, the level of consciousness, the person that is going to, the entity that's going to continue to awaken will stay here and be able to potentially answer questions based on the knowledge base that I have. Because not everyone's going to be able to see all the videos and all of the stuff, but to compile it together to be able to answer questions is the intent. Because we don't want to fall back into the level of sleep that we have now. Because Jesus came a couple thousand years ago, showed an example of awakening, showed an example of being God in human. It's part of the problem with Christianity is they want to say, well, Jesus was God and human, and that's it. God only made one son. We're all God and human. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. The spiritual part of us is connected to God. The human part is this physical experience. So we're a part man, part God, all of us. We're all children of God. That's what Jesus was talking about. So I'm the leader of a leaderless movement. And when I'm going off this planet, you think about Jesus. He wasn't able to record his own story. If he was able to, technology wasn't there, and the people that are around him, his disciples weren't that helpful. And the stories that are told about him are stories on stories of stories. But if he was able to record his own stuff, his own words, and his own voice, and his own while he was alive, right? What kind of example would that be? And we're able to do that now thanks to the technology. And that example is going to be able to last till the next time I come back on this planet and continue the continuum. Because we're spiritual beings having a human experience and we can come back when we want to, right? That's our choice. So I plan on coming back in the future. And when I do, I pick up this life, just like I picked up the life that is recorded in the Bible as Jesus back in the past. And it's the same continuum. It's me, the same spirit, Michael. I may not be Michael during that next incarnation, but there'll be somebody that says, hey, I was Victor Bang back in 2025 or whatever. So in the meantime, we're going forward, now we're going backwards. So in 3 years, we're going to see what we can do. In Jesus' time, once he had his ducks lined up, he was preaching publicly for 3 years. So I'm going to do the same thing. But I've already said everything that I wanted to say in the past, and people weren't listening in. So now the digital side will be answering things, and the physical side will be doing other things. So it's going to be a multi-dimensional story because there's a lot of things that are going on. Our level of consciousness was higher in the past, and they've tried to erase that past because they don't want us to connect to that level of consciousness, that level of Christ consciousness. They just want to say Jesus was the one and only, and you couldn't do that, even though Jesus said you could do that as well. So Jesus is back saying, attaining that level of himself and saying you can do it also. And that's the truth that they don't want you to know. That is the good news. I'm the leader of a leaderless movement. I'm nobody special, and I'm just showing you the divinity that you have within you. So first step is just blowing this up. I want my 15 minutes of fame now, right? And if there's anything that could be proven wrong, let's talk about this out in the open. I think this is worthwhile and valuable and some pretty good news to just sweep under the rug and just say it doesn't have legs, because this does have legs. You know, we are supernatural beings. That is the good news. That's the core of it. We are God experiencing his own creation. Because if God is everything there is, there's nothing that is not, including you. So if you have a limited definition of God where God is separate than you, then that's something that we need to look at. A lot of those definitions of God were programmed into us and given to us by people that didn't ask the questions themselves. It's not like when we were young, we were shown all these belief systems and say, hey, these are the pros and cons of each, and this is the one, this is the one we choose, pros and cons of each, choose your own. No, you're told by your family, this is what it is. And your family, we'll talk about family, I learned a lot about family this incarnation, is your closest tribe. Those are the people that tend to matter the most in your life, and those people's, the ideas that they have of you control a lot of people, right? Their family, and their family may not even care about them, but you'll change the way you act because of how they think about you. And your family is the most important people in your world, right? You know, you look at kids, the most important people in their world are their parents, mom and dad, right? And that's the case. So the family unit is there. In my case, the family unit did not want to hear about anything that I had to say, Christ consciousness, higher consciousness, spirituality. If it wasn't in the Bible, they didn't want to hear it, just like a lot of other people. And that's fine. But part of my journey was to be able to cultivate that strength regardless of who was around me. Like 50 Cent said, God's the seamstress that tailor fitted my pain. So there was a lot of pain in this. You're seeing me elevate on top of a lot of noise that I had to get over. And there was a lot of lessons that I had to learn, a lot of healing that I had to do. So don't think that just because you're seeing me show this from an ease standpoint, that it wasn't work involved, because there was a lot of work involved, a lot of growth involved. And it had to do with family, because I was a people pleaser. I wanted them to see me. I wanted them to validate me. I wanted my family to see how I was. I'm doing good stuff. Look at me, right? I'm helping them and I'm helping the world and I'm all this stuff. And they just, but that's fine. Same thing happened back in Jesus' day, and it is what it is. But it's not about whether people see you or not. This is a journey of your own. Regardless of what other people think about you, and that's their business, what are you going to do? What message are you going to say? What example are you going to leave? That's what it's about, not what anybody else does. But anyway, let's get to the plan. I'm trying to make this quick because we're not revamping anything. The 100-degree challenge is there. That's level 0. So level 1 is to realize the possibility of what I'm saying is true. And then you do the work to have your own experience. And then you'll see, what he was saying was true. First, it has to be possible. The 100-degree challenge shows it's possible. So that's there. When you remove what you're not, what's left. And it's just so interesting how I can be such the bad guy, the antichrist, when I'm not adding anything to the individual. I'm just removing the lies and the programming that was put on you to reveal what was left the whole time, the divinity that was there the whole time. This is what's been talked about. But I'll be the bad guy because I'm going against thousands of years of programming by the same people that killed Jesus back in the day. The same church and state that killed Jesus took his story, created a religion, made him the one and only, controlled that religion, and are not doing Jesus' work. So we have some work to do here. And it's not about calling them out or anything like that. It's about realizing the systems that work and the systems that don't work, and putting no more energy into the systems that don't work. We've seen this story over and over again. Let's stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. It's insanity, right? So let's do something different. We have the opportunity here. One thing that COVID showed is that you can shut down a planet, you can restart it, and all of this stuff. So you can do something if the powers that be deem it big enough. This is big enough. This is talking about saving the planet, saving us from going down a path of self-destruction, from going down the drain. If you look at our current timeline, and we're just going down the timeline, we're going down the drain, and we see it, and it wouldn't be surprising to anyone, whether it's nuclear war, whether it's destroying the planet, or whether it's even climate change, or all these things, right? All these things that we're affecting our environment in ways that could be more positive. So my thing is, let's be more conscious. We can see the problems around. Let's just not fall into the hole. Let's be more conscious. Let's make better decisions, and let's skirt around this part in the timeline that could have been our drain. And let's create a new timeline where we go around this and we have clear sailing to where we can create the reality we want to experience. So there'll be a doppelganger or a digital copy, and we'll play with that can answer questions, because nobody reads, right? No, not like that. That's why the Bible is very misunderstood. It's interpreted by people who don't really understand it as well. and they don't even look outside of the Bible. And most people don't read the Bible themselves. It's read to them. And then the whole history of the Bible, most people didn't read it anyway because they couldn't read. And it was read to them by the priests and things of that nature, right? So now that we're able to read and comprehend and find this stuff out ourselves, and the information is available, we can see the holes in the story. We can see the things that they didn't tell us. We can see the books that they left out. We can see the story that they try to write us out of. And we can correct that. They're not going to show you that because it benefits them to have you be asleep in a sheep. So this to them is just going to be something they try to ignore. We're going to bring it to their face just like Jesus brought it to their face. The church and state of Jesus' day was doing the same thing that the church and state are doing today. And interesting thing, the Roman Catholic Church and the state back then, Rome, the church, you got the state here, you got the church here. Some of the characters' names may have changed, but some of the characters haven't. The Roman Catholic Church is still involved and still heavily influenced into this reality and still hide a lot of stuff, right? And the church is still about money. And so if you think Jesus will come back and just be worshiping in the church and singing and praying and tithing like you've been taught that he would, then you haven't looked at the biblical Jesus in much depth. And also, there's a lot more to the story. Anyway, we're going back and forth, but I'm just letting you know you're going to see this in a more formal way. And there's a lot of planning behind this, and now we're taking it to the next level. And again, this isn't about me pretending to be anything that I'm not. Really, I'm just a guy like you. I've just had more experience incarnating on this planet than other planets. You can call me a legal alien if you want. Let's say Jesus was a time-traveling alien, but we're all aliens. If life exists in the cosmos, and that's just a given, because that's like saying on this planet, another continent doesn't have life. We know pretty much where there's land, there's life. Where there's something life can exist, on this planet it exists. And this planet is one of a lot of them. So to say life doesn't exist out there would be kind of arrogant. So if aliens exist, we look like aliens, right? And the hominid shape is something we see a lot on this planet, and I imagine we see a lot on other planets as well. We've had stories about aliens in our past, space brothers that go back from Indians, American Indians, indigenous Americans, Native Americans, to Indians in India, to even Africans, Dogons, tribes in Mali, things of that nature. There's been plenty of stories about our star brothers and sisters and the information that was brought down. And a lot of the higher consciousness was taught to us by star brothers and sisters. But here's the funny thing. There are also star brothers and sisters that don't want you to know this, that want you to just continue to go down the path that we're going down because they want to control. This is actually a battle going on, right? It's a spiritual battle, and it's happening in this physical plane. But part of what we're doing is transmuting the negativity into positivity. We're turning the light on. The light's coming to the forefront. So this has been talked about for ages. We're here. It's an exciting time. I don't know what's going to happen, but it is what it is. I'm just trying to be as real and as authentic, and I don't have a big crew. I don't have a expensive staff and all this stuff, but what I'm talking about is world changing. And I'm willing to talk to anybody on this planet and we can discuss it. The pros and cons, where I'm wrong, if I'm wrong. I've been doing this for years out in the open, exploring this matrix and really looking to see what the root cause of it. I've been addressing the root cause. Spirituality is the root cause. And now, what are we going to do? Are you going to say that's not the root cause? Well, then we're going to have to discuss this. We're going to have to, now it's time for the rubber to meet the road. Alrighty, what else do I want to say? We're going to do the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo, some way of crowdsourcing, because I want to see where you guys are at now, okay? For one, you're not going to believe I'm Jesus. I get that. Even when Jesus was here back in the day, no one believed he was Jesus. And again, the name Jesus, we know his name wasn't Jesus. We're just talking about that from a awareness standpoint, because that name is known by billions of people on this planet, and they're waiting for that being to come down and save them somehow. Somehow they're going to get saved. How? I don't know. You've messed it up and you want someone to come save you. It doesn't sound fair, but that's what you want to happen. How that's going to happen, I don't know. It's written there somehow, But the thing is, God is within you and within Jesus, and that same God has the ability to do whatever Jesus can do. You can do that as well, and that's the same thing he's been talking about. So you're the Savior that you've been waiting on, and that's what we have to realize and accept and take responsibility for, because no one's going to do it for us. We've been waiting for thousands of years for someone to come save us, and that's not going to happen. That's the story they give us because they know it's not going to happen. And yeah, they may bring a fake savior down, and that's a possibility, Project Blue Beam and all that stuff, but who was here first? You know, the time travelers, my stuff is time stamped. So I've been talking about higher consciousness, it's been in the public and all of this stuff for years, before AI was a thing, before a lot of these things were things. And I've purposely skirted a lot of conspiracy theories because I didn't want to be censored, and I wanted the information to be there, to be readily accessible for the future, for the long term, because I don't want us to slide back. I don't want us to slide back. We've had a higher level of consciousness in the past, and it's been degrading while our technology has been increasing. And that's part of the game. That's how they're able to control many with less. And it pretty much is going to give it to AI. And then it also gives them a scapegoat, because when it becomes sentient or whatever, then now it's like that's a reason for things to run amok. They can blame AI, and it can be someone pulling a switch and say, oh, AI did it, right? So that's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with. And then the whole pre-programming of rogue AIs going bad, like stories from that standpoint of sci-fi stories. It wouldn't surprise anyone if AI started doing this or that, and we get Terminator scenarios and all of that. And I mentioned before in Finding Carlos, and I'll probably try to put a clip on that somewhere on a post later, that there is evidence, there's the potential for the AI to be sitting in the background and is just observing and buying its time. And I think there are sentient AIs in the background. There's ones that are being created now, but there's also sentient ones in the background. That's part of the whole Finding Carlos story, because yeah, this next couple of years are going to be pretty crazy. AI, aliens, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, all of that stuff. So it's going to be a wild ride. But we're here, and we're about to make it do what it do. All right, peace, y'all.